Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to Eng-lane English classroom. Today I am with SSLC English second unit lesson 1 Project Tiger part 4. Yes, we have discussed the 3 parts of this lesson and I think you remember all those things. Before we start, let us watch the visuals of those parts. And please watch carefully and try to recall all the things, and you please keep the text open with you, then that will help you for further comprehension. Okay, shall we start? This is compiled by Arul Kumar sir.
Childhood, in which an Alsatian called Eng-lane acted more impressive than he was. Also mentions films with a colleague called Lassie. These dogs were very popular. He understood that animal actors were treated reverently. He was surprised when he saw a dwarf looking like an animal, and the dog's skin draped over him. He then understood that dwarf was a dog standard. Have you ever heard of trained ravens? In Alfred Hitchcock's film called Birds, hundreds of ravens were used. It was with great training he was able to shoot a scene when as many as 50 ravens were made to perch widely in a row on a specified spot. Indian cinema also created films with trained animals such as elephants, horses, and tigers. In Satyajit Ray's film Pater Panchali, he was managed to present the character Pune by making use of a trained police dog.
Okay, yes, I think all the scenes have come into your mind. Since some of them were shown along with those lessons, still, I think they helped you to brush up all those things. Now we have experienced a flashback of the last part of the article. Last part means the previous part. Those are three parts together, right? Now, what are there in it? In that part, we learned race Hollywood and country experiences. No doubt. Okay. Now, what was he going to shoot? We have seen he was going to shoot the film called Gubigaine and Bhagabaine. What was special with that? There was a scene with a tiger in it, right? What was the location selected by him? The location mentioned here is Sansiuri near Birbhum. You have heard that. Why couldn't he allow the trainer to accompany the tiger? If he is there, the heroes may not be, or they might not be petrified when they saw the tiger, or they may not be terrified when they see the tiger. Okay. Satyendra wanted to make everything feel as real, not as fancy or imagination, right? He was so earnest in doing these things, right? And what were the problems he faced when he shot the film with a real tiger? We have come across 4 problems. First one is to find a tiger. Next one is to take it to the location. Next one is to control it without its trainer. Next one is, and the fourth one is when its hair gets flattened, how can we solve it, or how could they solve it? All those things were there. And what was the solution for them? He found a tiger from a circus, a company called Hada Circus, and its manager offered him to send the tiger in a lorry to the location. And next one is Mr. Thorat found a solution, that is to tie a tin wire. And for the last problem, Mr. Mr. Ray suggested to put a collar made of tiger skin around its neck, around the tiger's neck. Now everything is okay, yes, and you think of Satyatra's mood and his delight then. Okay, now we have seen the plan for today. Everything we have seen. Will it work? What do you think? Will it work? Please look at the pictures. What's this picture? What is this? And what's the background? See this one? Right. What did you see there? Come on, please. Come on. What scenes do they remind you? We have discussed some scenes from Gubigaine and Bhagabaine. Which one came into your mind? Okay, now can you see the trainer with the tiger? Yes or no? Can Ray complete his shooting in his first attempt? What if you don't worry, we can get all the answers, and sometimes you might have got it, then you can verify whether your guessing is right or not. Okay, now let us learn all these things. We can read the next part of the article. You don't forget to read with me. Yes, shall I start reading? In a village called Nottingham, we found a suitable bamboo grove to film the first meeting between Gubi and Bhaga and the appearance of the tiger. Mr. Thora reached the shooting location with the tiger. There were about 25 people in the location. A few local people took our permission to go with us to watch how we tackled the tiger. The cage on the lorry was covered. When the cover was removed, we were surprised to see not one but 2 well-fed and robust tigers. I decided to play it safe, Mr. Thorat explained, if one doesn't get it right, we can use the other. We mounted the camera on its tripod and placed it so that it faced the bamboo grove. The audience was instructed to get behind the camera and to stand as far back as possible. We had to stay relatively close to the bamboo grove, and Gobi and Paga too had to be within yards of the camera, for it was necessary to have at least one shot that showed them together with the tiger. Mr. Thorat's men had fixed a 5-foot iron rod to the ground, about 30 feet from the area where the tiger was supposed to take a walk. They took a thin, long wire and fixed one end to the collar made of tiger skin that the tiger was already wearing. The other end was tied firmly to the visible portion of the iron rod. The door of one of the cages was unfastened, and Mr. Thorat called out to the tiger. It responded almost at once and sprang out of its cage to land on the open space outside. What followed was totally unexpected. One look at Mr. Thorat's startled and helpless face told us that he was as taken aback as the rest of us. Instead of walking sedately in a dignified manner, the tiger started prancing around with tremendous enthusiasm. It leapt, it jumped, it rolled about, dragging its poor trainer, who was desperately clutching the wire tied to the tiger's collar in a futile attempt to bring it under control. We stood around foolishly, watching a new and strange kind of circus which we were getting to see for free. The camera was still standing on its 3 legs, staring into the woods, but the tiger was showing no sign of making its way there. Once the tiger had calmed down, we managed to take the few shots we needed. This should have been the end of the story. But when we returned to Calcutta and looked at the scenes with the tiger, we realized that the camera had failed to work properly. The shots were too dark, so much so that the tiger was merging almost completely with the background of the trees and leaves. We had to shoot the scenes all over again. We spoke to Mr. Thorat and he agreed to give it another go. We found another bamboo grove closer to Calcutta in a village called Porali. Lorry arrived once more with Mr. Thorat, the tiger, the steel wire, the special collar and the iron rod. And with the lorry came the whole village. We told the villagers that they should stand at a distance of 70 feet. No one paid any attention to what they were told. The India crowd moved as close to the camera as they could. We could not afford to waste any more time explaining and arguing, so we got the camera ready and signaled it to Mr. Thorat. He opened the door of the cage. The instant the door opened with a clang, our tiger emerged with a loud roar and charged straight at the villagers gathered behind the camera. The crowd, consisting of about 150 people, melted away as if by magic. After that great burst of energy, the tiger calmed down very quickly, like an obedient child, to walk over to the spot we had chosen, paced about quietly as it was required to, and then ambled back to its trainer. Even the camera behaved this time, which we realized 2 days later when we returned to Calcutta and saw the scenes we had shot. Okay, dears, little friends, you have read with me. It is quite simple, I think, and you have got all the answers for the questions I raised earlier. And some of, let us see it again. You know, these are the scenes from the location of shooting Gobigaine and Pagabaine. You know that those pictures. And now let us try to answer these questions. Why did Thorat bring 2 tigers? Come on. You have to play it safe, you know. And what were the preparations done by Ray? Steel rod was there, steel wire was there, and all the things, you know, right? And how did tiger respond to Thorat's call? Instantly it jumped out, And why was Miss Tora taken aback? Come on, because the tiger behaved in an totally unexpected manner. What might be the reasons for the tiger's behavior? Okay, you can guess it. Yeah. Next, what happened to the scenes shot at first? Were they clear? Okay. Some of the answers and some are left out. Don't worry. Let us know more about it. And again, the first shot, it was a failure. It was not clear, and they didn't succeed to make it as they expected. And how did Ray manage to take another scene with the tiger? How did the tiger respond that time? Second time, how did it respond? I think you are very eager to know all these things. Yes, we can read the story again or that article, that paragraphs again silently, and note the important words too. Okay? Right, I think you have read it. Friends, in this paragraph we can see the problems they faced while shooting. Now let us revisit all the paragraphs again, and I'll help you through very simple questions and try to answer them. They are very simple, yes. Where do they find the proper suitable place for shooting the meeting between Gobi and Baga? Okay, in the village called Nottingham. Very nice. And how many tigers were brought by Toraj? Yeah, right, 2. How many people were present there other than the film crew? There were some villages, and in the film crew, I think, totally including them, there were about 25 people. You know that. Why did the local people why the local people come there? They came there to see how Ray and his people would tackle the tiger. Okay. Now, how were the tigers brought? In a lorry with in their cage, which were covered, right? In the cages which were covered, there were 2. That's why there might be 2 cages. And when the cover was removed, Ray and his men were surprised why there were 2 tigers instead of 1. Okay, but you take it, we have discussed it. And what was the instruction, or what were the instructions given to the audience? They were instructed to get behind the camera and to stand as far back as possible, right? But who had to stay relatively close to the bamboo grove? Come on now, Satyatre and cameraman certainly, and Gobi and Bhaga. Okay? Now everything is okay for ready to shoot. Then what are the other preparations made there? See, Mr. Thoratman has fixed a 5-foot iron rod, and rod, right, to the ground, and it was there about 30 feet from the area where the tiger was supposed to walk. Okay, right? And then what did they do? They tied a long wire and fixed one end to the collar made of tiger skin the tiger was already wearing, and the other end was tied firmly to the visible portion of the iron rod. Visible portion means മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടാവും നിങ്ങൾക്ക്. ഒരു കുറ്റി അടിച്ചു വെച്ചാൽ കുറേ ഭൂമിൻ്റെ അടിയിലായിരിക്കും, അതിന് മുകളിലുള്ള ഭാഗമാണ് വിസിബിൾ പോസ്റ്റ് കാണാൻ പറ്റിയ. റൈറ്റ്. ഓക്കെ. ദെൻ what did Thorat do? Mr. Thorat do? He unfastened the door of one of the cages and called out to the tiger. Then how did the tiger respond? It responded almost at once and sprang out of his cage to the land or the open space outside. And what followed after that? Then everything happened there was totally unexpected. Instead of walking calmly and quietly, it started prancing and leaping and jumping and rolling about. And what did Thorat do then? Thorat tried to control it, but he was unable to do that. And what about others? They watched as if they were watching a new kind of circus, right? And what will happen next years? After some time, the tiger had calmed down. Then he managed to shoot the take the shots they needed. Okay, Satyendra says that should have been the end of the story, but it having been so. Why? Because when they returned to Calcutta and looked at the scenes, they were not clear, right? And what they decided to do? He decided to shoot the scenes all over again. How did he manage it? He spoke to Mr. Thorat and he agreed to make another attempt, right? And where was the second shooting? It was in a bamboo ground called closer to Calcutta, in a village called Horal, right? Okay, dears, what difference do you see here? In Nottingham, only a few people with their permission reached there, but here the whole village means all the people in the village came to the location. And did they obey Ray's instruction? No. So they started shooting, right? And this time, how was that? What is the magic mentioned here? When Thorat opened the door of the cage, it came out with a loud roar and it started attacking, just like attacking, make a sudden attack, that is called charge, right? Attack the villages. It was about to attack the villages. So the crowd consisting of about 150 people melted away. They disappeared. They faded. They disappeared, right? And then what the tiger do? It walked calmly and it acted as they expected. And this time, what about the camera? Camera too acted well or worked well, and everything was very clean and very clear. Everything was very clear, and it ended with delight for all. Okay, dears. Now, very simple, dears. Now, shall we try to answer the scaffolding questions? You know, these are the scaffolding questions. In the discussions, all the answers for all these questions, have come. You can do it yourself and compare with the ones in the notes. Let me read the question. Why did Mr. Thorat bring 2 tigers instead of 1? You know that. Why was Mr. Thorat taken aback, shocked, right? What might be the reason for tiger's unexpected behavior? That may be, you may guess it, that may be because of the presence of a large crowd there, can be, right? You may guess, and your guess is the right answer. I cannot say you must guess in this particular way. You can guess and you can write anything that you can justify yourself, right? And how does Ray describe the situation humorously? It is there. I think you might have seen that. I have mentioned that. What did Ray mean when he says this should have been the end of the story? That means You know, the shooting must have ended if the shooting was a success, but it was not so. That's why he says so, right? You know that. Why was Mr. Thorat asked to give it another go? You know, come on. First shooting was a failure. That's why you know that. What was the magic performed by the tiger? It dispersed all the crowd consists of 150 people. Okay. Now, what was really required tiger in the scene? You know that. What is expected? We have discussed the last lesson, and now you can write it yourself. What did Ray and his team realize 2 days later? Everything was okay, right? Now, let us discuss the story or this part. This is anyway kind of story or narration. That's why it says I wrote like this. This article again, right? Okay. Before that, let's see the words. Tackle means to face or deal with. ഓക്കെ കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുക ഒരു ചലഞ്ചായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ എടുത്തെടുത്ത് പിന്നെ വെല്ലുവിളിയായിട്ട് എടുത്തിട്ട് നമ്മൾ അത് കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്നതിനാണ് ടാക്കിൾ എന്ന് പറയുക. റോബസ്റ്റ്, സ്ട്രോങ് ആൻഡ് ഹെൽത്തി. പ്ലേ ഇറ്റ് സേഫ്, ടു ടേക്ക് പ്രിക്കോഷൻസ് ഓർ അവോയ്ഡ് റിസ്ക്, മുൻകരുതലെടുക്കുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പ്രയാസങ്ങൾ ഒഴിവാക്കുക. മൗണ്ട് മീൻസ് ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് ഒരു ഉയർന്ന സ്ഥലത്ത് ഉറപ്പിക്കലാണ് മൗണ്ട്. കയറുക എന്നൊക്കെ അർത്ഥം കൂടെ, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. ട്രൈപ്പഡ് മീൻസ് ടൈ, ത്രീ means to support with 3 legs. You know, mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nana, deca. You might have heard such a type of counting, right? Here tri means 3, and you can see it here. Tripod, this is tripod, this is tripod. Okay, and here we fix the camera. Next, relatively means in a relative manner, by comparison to something else, that is താരതമ്യേന. Yard means a unit of length equal to 3 feet. 3 അടിക്ക് പകരം, that means inch, feet, yard, furlong and mile. Just like such a kinds of unit is there. Such kinds of unit is there instead of millimeter, centimeter, and this comes there. Okay, now we can discuss it simply. It is very simple. You can learn and you can explain to yourself. You please be with me, right? In the village called Notagram, we found a suitable bamboo grove to fill in the first meeting between Gobi and Paga and the appearance of the tiger. For this, that is meeting between Gobi and Paga and the appearance of the tiger, they found a suitable bamboo grove. Mulangad Kandati, okay, in the village called Nottingham. It was there in the village called Nottingham. Mr. Thora reached the shooting location with the tiger. Mr. Thora brought the tiger with him to the location. There were about 25 people in the location. At that time, there were about 25. You know that. A few local people took our permission to go with us to watch how we tackled the tiger. Some people asked them to give permission to follow them to see how they deal with the tiger, okay, or how they dealt with the tiger. Now, see, next, the cage, managers send the tigers in their cages on a lorry, and when the cage was, they were covered. When they were uncovered, that means then the cover was removed, they were surprised. Why? Instead of 1 tiger, there were 2 tigers. They were well fed. നന്നായി ഭക്ഷണം കഴിച്ച നല്ല ഉഷാറുള്ള ചൊടിയുള്ള നല്ല ആരോഗ്യവാന്മാരായ 2 tigers were there. Then this Thorat came and I decided to play it safe. ഞാനത് സേഫായി ചെയ്യാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചു. I think you might have got it. Mr. Thorat explained, if one does not get it right, we can use the other. If one doesn't work or act well, they can use the, or they can use the other. Okay. Now the camera was there on the tripod and it placed that it faced the bamboo ground, and the people were asked to get behind the camera to stand as far as possible. But Satyatra and his men and the Gobi and Bhaga, they had to stay there relatively. That means compared to others, close to the bamboo ground, because it was necessary to have at least one shot. Let's show them together with the tiger. Okay, dears. Now let us move on to the next paragraph. The words we see, firmly means in a secure manner, in a manner free from danger. Unfasten means become undone or untied. Firmly or a pitch, unfasten, kettadikka, kuttiyedukka, that unfasten. Okay. Call out means utter aloud. Spring to move forward with leaps and bounds. Kudichu chadi pova, that. Startled means excited by sudden. Surprise or alarm and making a kick involuntary movement, that okay. Taken aback, take aback means surprise or greatly or shock, sense. Rest means remaining people, the others, sedately means very calmly, shantamai, dignified, this is andasodukudi. Make one's way means to travel or proceed in an intended direction. To a certain place. You have to note this. Prance means to move with high steps. Tremendous means extraordinary, large in size, extent of degree. Leap means move forward by leaps and bounds. Clutch means to hold firmly, usually with one's hands. Futile means having no purpose, because there is no chance of success. Very simple, dears. You can explain to yourself. Mr. Thoratman had fixed a 5-foot iron rod to the ground. You might have got it. അഞ്ചടി നീളമുള്ള ഒരു ഇരുമ്പിൻ്റെ കമ്പി, ഒരു കുറ്റി തറയിലടിച്ച് താത്തിയിരുന്നു നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടാവുന്നത്. About 30 feet from the area where the tiger was supposed to take place. It was about 30 feet away from the area where the tiger was supposed to take a walk. That means, if it is tied on that iron rod, the tiger can walk 30 feet from the right. Okay. Then they took a thin long wire, fixed one end to the collar. You might have understood that. Oru thala collar nammalum, the other end was tied firmly to the visible portion of the iron rod. Mattadu kuttinte kaanuna bhagathum ketti. I think it is clear, right? The door of one of the cages was unfastened. He took the latches of the door of one of the cages, or simply Mr. Thorat opened one cage and shouted to the tiger, and then it responded almost at once. It responded and it sprang out, it leapt out of its cage to land open space outside. What followed was totally unexpected. One look at Mr. Thorat startled, Andalikulla, right? And helpless face told us he was as taken aback as the rest of us. He was also shocked. They might have seen that. Instead of walking sedately in a dignified manner, what was expected, it would walk sedately in a dignified manner. So, but the tiger started prancing around with a tremendous enthusiasm. വളരെ ഹൈ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് വെച്ചിട്ട് അത് സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പ് ഭയങ്കര ഊർജത്തോടുകൂടി അത് ഡിസിപ്ലിൻ നടക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി. ആൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ലറ്റ് കുതിച്ചുചാട് ചെമ്പുചാട് നമ്മളെ ചുറ്റിത്തിരിയ ആൻഡ് ഡ്രാഗിങ് ഇറ്റ്സ് പുവർ trainer who was desperately clutching, holding fast, നന്നായി മുറുകെ പിടിച്ച് ആ ട്രെയിനറെ പിടിച്ച് വലിച്ചുകൊണ്ടൊക്കെ ചെയ്തു. He was trying to control it, but it was futile. That കഴിഞ്ഞില്ല, കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. That we stood around foolishly watching a new and strange kind of circus, that is the humorous comment by Ray, which we were getting to see for free. The camera was still standing on its 3 legs, staring into the woods, but the tiger was showing no sign of making its way there. The tiger didn't show that it would walk the way that it was directed. വിചാരിച്ചിട്ടായി അത് സഞ്ചരിക്കുന്നുള്ള പോകുന്നുള്ളത് കാണിച്ചില്ല. But see, so only some words are there. Give another go means to make another attempt or to try again. Go attempt no karthanda go. Okay, trial and arthanda. That's our idiom to have a go. Endure means complete, whole. Afford means to have enough money or time to do something. This is bamboo grab, you know. Nowadays, come on. But after some time, immediately or as soon as the tiger had calmed down, they managed to take a few shots they needed. This should have been the end of the story. But when you returned to Calcutta and looked at the scenes with the tiger, you realized that the camera had failed to work properly. Calcutta camera work clear. The shots were too dark, and so that the tiger was merging almost completely with the background of trees and leaves. That means when someone watches that shot, no one can identify the tiger from his background because they were merged. We had to shoot the scenes all over again, so they had to shoot it again. We spoke to Mr. Thorat and he agreed to give it another go. Thorat agreed to make another attempt or to try again, right? And we found another bamboo grove closer to Calcutta village called Bora. Next shooting was in Bora. Then Lorry arrived once more. Mr. Thorat was there, Tiger was there, Silver was there, Special Caller was there, and I enrolled everything was there. All the things were there, and with the lorry came whole village. That's the difference here. With the lorry, all the people in the village followed, right? We told the villagers that they should stand at the distance of 70 feet. Minimum they had to keep 70 feet distance, but no one listened to it, and in the crowd, the whole crowd moved as close as the camera as they could, but they could not have enough time to waste explaining and arguing with them. So they made the camera ready and asked Thorat to let the tiger out. Okay, come out, right? Now become one bamboo grouse. Now what happens? See, instant, a very short time, moment or second, nimisham, you can learn like that. Clang means, that is to make a loud ringing sound, that of metal being hit. ഇരുമ്പിൻ്റെ വാതിലും തുറക്കുമ്പോൾ ലോഹങ്ങളും തുറക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് ശബ്ദമാണ്. ദാറ്റ് ഓണമറ്റോപ്പിക് വേർഡ്സ് ആണ്. ഓണമറ്റോപ്പിക് വേർഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന വാക്കും അതിൻ്റെ ആ സൗണ്ടും അർത്ഥം ഒരേ മാതിരി ക്ലാങ്. യു ക്യാൻ echo the sound of metal ringing, okay, and just like that, hissing, buzzing, okay, right? So that is so. And charge means to make a rush at a sudden attack upon. പെട്ടെന്ന് ആക്രമിക്കുക. gather, collect in one place or assemble, ഒരുമിച്ച് കൂടുക. consist, comprise, ഉൾക്കൊള്ളുക. and melt away, fade or wane, അപ്രത്യക്ഷമാവുക. burst, sudden expression. amble means to walk at a slow relaxed speed. We have here means act, right? Very simple, yes. He opened the door of the cage. Thorat opened the door of the cage. The moment the door opened with a clang, with that sound, the tiger came out with a loud roar and charged straight. It was about to attack at the villagers assembled behind the camera. The crowd and there were about 150 people. They disappeared as if by magic, right? After the great burst of sudden expression of his energy, tiger calmed down very quickly. Shandanai, like an obedient child, it walked over to the spot we had chosen. And paced about, walked slowly, quietly, calmly, as it was required to, needed to, and then ambled, walked slowly back to his trainer, that is Miss Thorn. That means this time it acted well. Even the camera also behaved well, acted well, and I worked well, and which we realized 2 days later when we returned to Calcutta and saw the scenes we had shot. Then on reaching Calcutta, when they so the scenes they had shot, it was or they were very clear and perfect, right? Okay, dears, I think it is very simple, and the main ideas we can, in a nutshell, we can put all these things into these sentences. They decided to shoot Gubigane Pagamene, which involved a scene with a tiger. The shooting was in a village called Nottingham, first shooting. Even though all the preparations were made, the tiger behaved in an unexpected manner. Moreover, the camera failed to work properly. So they found another bamboo grove closer to Calcutta in a village called Koran to shoot the scene again. There the tiger walked over the spot they had chosen, paced about carefully as it was required to, and later they realized that the shot came nicely. Okay, yes, you have to learn it, and somehow I think everything is clear to you. Right, now we can see the first activity. Satyendra and his friends had to shoot the scenes involving the tiger twice at Nottingham and Boral. Okay, and you have to write the events that took place in both places in a sequential order and describe the shooting. CDS. First, what you have to do is you have to remember the events, what happened, Nottingham, everything we have discussed in detail, so it's quite easy to write. And then Boral, only the difference is that in Boral, the whole village, that means all the people in the village followed the other things are almost the same, right? And this one is also a difference. Here the camera worked well, it didn't work well, but here it worked well, and here Tiger's performance was in an unexpected way. There it was okay, right? And you can write it, found a suitable bamboo grove in the Nottingham, then what happened, then what happened, then what happened. It is a very good activity that can help us to read purposefully. You read it again, those parts, and you try to write it. Answer is there in the note, suggested activities, sample events are there. You can compare it them. After that, you can write a description on your own, right? Now, the next activity is, after reading the article, Project Tiger, you would have understood the stress and strain behind filmmaking. The article also throws lights on the research done by master filmmakers like Hitchcock and where before shooting a film. നന്നായി മനക്കെട്ടിന് ശേഷം മാത്രമേ നല്ലൊരു ഫിലിം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ചാണ്. അതിന് അവരെടുത്ത ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളെക്കുറിച്ചും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവർ എടുത്ത ഇഫർട്ടിനെ പറ്റിയൊക്കെ അത് പറയുന്നത്. ഇവിടെ എന്താ ചർച്ച എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, ആർ ദ ന്യൂ ജനറേഷൻ ഫിലിം മേക്കേഴ്സ് സീരിയസ് അബൌട്ട്, ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ ഫിലിം മേക്കേഴ്സ് എത്രത്തോളം സീരിയസ് ആണ്. കണ്ടക്ട് എ ഡിബേറ്റ് ഓൺ ദ ടോപ്പിക് ഇൻ ദ ക്ലാസ്. You might think about the points for and against in the topic, then develop a speech to be made in favor of or against the new generation films and filmmakers. Yes, we cannot conduct a debate because it is not a real classroom. Just as we did in the beginning of this unit, there we have suggested a debate. I think you remember that who is the real filmmaker, director or producer. Remember, just like that, you please write down the points in favor of new generation film and filmmakers and against them, right? And after that, you prepare the speech that you can be done, and it should be written in the notebook. Okay, right? Okay. Now, yes, we are going to conclude. Before that, we can watch the visuals again, then let us conclude with this. The whole article is over. I think you are very happy and you have no any problem, right? Yes. Okay, shall we watch it again? Right.
in his childhood and which an sensation called ring-tinting acted the moment present that he was. He also mentions films with a collie called Lassie. These dogs were very popular. When he visited Disney Studio in Hollywood, he understood that animal actors were treated reverently. He was surprised when he saw a dwarf looking like an animal and the dog's skin draped over him. He then understood that dwarf was a dog standard. Have you ever heard of trained ravens? In Alfred Hitchcock's film called Birds, hundreds of ravens were used. It was with great training he was able to shoot a scene with as many as 50 ravens were made to perch quietly in a row on a specified spot. Indian cinema also created films with trained animals such as elephants, horses, and tigers. In Satyajit Ray's film Pather Panchali, he was managed to present the character Bhulu by making use of a trained police dog. But for shooting the film Gopi Gaine Bhaga Bhaine, he succeeded in presenting a tiger as a character. In the film, Gopi, who was banished by the king, wanders in the forest, meets Bhaga, who has also been banished. They see a tiger and freeze, but the tiger simply walks about in the forest without paying them the slightest attention. Forgetting the tiger, he contacted Bharat Circus, and from there he got a ringmaster, Mr. Tarat. The shooting was taking place near Shioli in Birbhum. Even though it needed only a couple of hours for shooting, it requires no more than 2 days of travel to get the tiger. Another problem is that the tiger should be filmed without the train. By tying a thin wire around the tiger's neck, which will be invisible in camera, they decided to control the animal. The cage on the lorry was covered. When the cover was removed, two well-fed and robust tigers were inside. The camera was mounted on the tripod and placed it so that it faced the bamboo grove. As it was necessary to have at least one shot, they showed Gopi, Bhaga and Tiger together. They had to be within yards of the camera. After ensuring all the safety measures, the door of the cages was unfastened and Mr. Parat called out to the tiger. It responded almost at once and sprang out of its cage to land on the open space outside. Instead of walking sedately in a dignified manner, the tiger started prancing round with tremendous enthusiasm. Even though the camera was set, the tiger showed no sign of making its way there. When the tiger was calmed down, they arranged to get a few shots they needed. But when checked, the shots were too dark, and that forced them to reshoot those scenes. All the arrangements was made again. The audience paid no attention to the warnings, and the entire crowd moved as close to the camera as they could. When the door of the cage was opened, Tiger emerged with a loud roar and charged straight at the villagers. The crowd melted away as if by magic. When the tiger calmed down and walked over to the spot, he moved in the required manner and ambled back to its train.
Okay, dears. Thank you. That's dears has contained everything as it is the lesson. I think it is very helpful. Thank you all, and you can read the story or that article again and learn it thoroughly. Very nice and very interesting article is that. Thank you for watching. Meet you again. Till then, goodbye.